Mabuhay, kapisanan, kasaysayan, Pilipinas. Makasaysayang gabi po sa ating lahat. Welcome to Vibal Group, Kasaysayan, Kaysaya. Yan mga kaibigan. Alam niyo po, ngayon no, ang ating ikatlong taon, no, bilang isang programa dito sa Vibal Group, no. Titingnan ko lang Kasaysayan, Kaysaya, yung ating dog episode last time.
I went to Japan and found out
yung ating kasaysayan Kaysaya Dogs in Philippine History sa atin pong pagkakabilang po, no? Kasi nagkaroon ng iba't ibang schedule tayo at iba't ibang frequency. Ito po ang ating 71st episode, yung aso. So ngayon po ay ang ating 72nd episode. 72 episodes po, every 2 weeks lang po tayo may air. May time po tayo na first 1 week, every week tayo ang una, no? Pero 72 programs, 72 marami tayong mga nakapanayam, kaya nagpapasalamat tayo sa Vibal Group. So in many ways, bagong simula, no? Narinig niyo po ang ating chimes kanina, yan po ang bagong areglong chimes, no? Ng ating PHA himno ng kapisanang pangkasaysayan ng Pilipinas. No, bagong areglo po 'yan at yan po ay nagpapasalamat tayo kay Ginoong Ian Alfonso, no? Na siyang nag-compose ng lyrics ng awitin na 'yan. Siyempre yan po ay sinulat ng music niyan ng ating maestro national artist Ryan Cayabyab at yan ay ni-record ng G-String Studio. Binabati ko pala si Ian Alfonso, no? Bago natin batiin ng mga kabibal natin na bago, no? Binabati ko si Ian Alfonso para sa pagkalabas ng aklat niyang Dogs in Philippine History, no? At yan, no, pwede niyo na ho yang mabasa at nasa Facebook naman ang mga impormasyon. Gayon din si Ian Alfonso ay ni-launch niya po last time doon sa kanyang launching ng Dogs in Philippine History yung bagong version po ng himno ng kapisanang pagkasaysayan ng Pilipinas na lagi po nating pinaparinig dito sa Kasaysayan Kaysaya. So mamaya po sa pagtatapos po ng ating programa sa ikatlong taon ng Kasaysayan Kaysaya, maririnig niyo po ang bagong version, no, na pinalitan lang ng kaunti ang ilang lyrics, no? Pero pareho pa rin ang diwa ng awitin ng mga nagmamahal sa kasaysayan. Ang himno ng kapisanang pagkasaysayan ng Pilipinas, pangarap ng kahapon. Ayun. Mga kaibigan, gayon din, nagpapasalamat din po ako sa inyo sapagkat lalong-lalo na sa Vibal Group sapagkat kinausap ko nga sila, lalo na si Ma'am Rio Brigino Lim, no? Sabi ko kay Ma'am Rio Brigino Lim, ano ba? Kailangan nyo pa ba kami? 3 taon na tayo. Ito ba ay is it still profitable for you? Hindi natin sinasabi kasi foundation po ang humahawak nito Vibal Foundation. Oo, so wala akong kita dito ang Vibal sa ginagawa natin. Subalit sabi nila maganda ang content at ipagpapatuloy natin. Ipagpapatuloy natin. Kaya nagpapasalamat po ako kay Benis na nandito pa rin, no? Salamat po. Sino ba yung ating bagong new kid on the block yan? Sila na yung magpapatupad ng ating Kasaysayan Kaysaya. Si ano ba? Nandito ba yung ating kaibigan na si Kim Carl? Yeah, si Kim Carl. Ayan, ano ang apelyido ni Kim Carl? Oh, sige. Salamat Kim Carl. Oh. Salamat. Si Benis, hindi ko nga alam mga apelyido nito eh. Oo, siyempre kasama pa Laurente, Kim Carl Laurente. Si Jessa Pomar, yan. Si Benis de la Cruz. Rio Brigino Lim. Ayan, siyempre. At siyempre, anuhin natin yan, sino ba? Si Kristine Mandigma. At siyempre, ang ating Presidente, Vibal. Maraming salamat po. Yun. So, alam nyo, ngayong ikatlong taon natin, kasi di ba marami na tayong mga in-interview ng mga historiador, marami na tayong in-interview mga resource persons. Parang gusto ko, maiba tayo sa ating third year. Gusto kong matuto mula sa mga bata. Ano ang tanong ng mga kabataan? Pasensya na kayo kung malaki yung boses ko, no? Inuubo pa rin ako at may sakit. Iniisip ko nga kanina kung itutuloy ko yung broadcast na ito. Pero hindi, at alam niyo po ba na hindi na ako matutulog pagkatapos nito. Alam niyo napagod ako kahapon sa isang tour ng Rizal Park Luneta. Tumatanda na tayo, may sakit. Pero alam niyo, talagang fulfilling kasama yung mga bata na i-interviewin natin ngayon. We will talk about that experience later. And I will ask them before they ask me. And talaga naman, and ako ipupunta pa sa mga isa sa pinakamalaking meeting ng mga historical networks na local sa Pilipinas. Sa LHCN bukas, alas 4 po ng hapon, ng umaga yung aking flight. So pagkatapos po ng show natin, mag-iimpake na ako, hindi na ako matutulog, pupunta na ako ng airport. Pero hindi pwede na hindi ko po gawin ang show ng ating ikatlong anibersaryo at ipagpaliban ito. Kaya hindi na ako magpapatong, hindi pala. Mag-commercial tayo, kailangan magpahinga ako ng konti. Na? So mag-commercial muna tayo, and then pagkatapos nito, sa ating pagbabalik, kilalanin po natin ang mga kabataan, ilang piling kabataan mula sa Charlotte Mason Authentique. Homeschoolers po ito mga kaibigan. Ano ba yung homeschool? Paano ba yan isinasagawa? No? At ano yung mga natututuhan nila? Paano sila natututo sa homeschooling na ito? So, tingnan natin sa ating pagbabalik.
Bertong Kunat! Daryong Dagol! Ano tong balitang pinagkakalat mo dito sa baluarte ko, ha?
Anong balita?
Huwag ka na magmaang-maangan pa!
Ayun ba? Ha? Hindi ba totoo naman? Nasabi ang lunas sa COVID. Alam mo ba kung nasaan ang bulkang Mayaw? Nasa Naga talaga yun. At higit sa lahat, fake news talaga yung ads sa Revolution.
Ungas ka ba? Ano ba pinagsasabi mo? Saan mo pinagkukuha yan?
Siyempre, nag-research ako, no? Sa Tuktuk University. Palibasa kasi at umugot ka na at laos, kaya hindi mo alam yun. Ano, ha?
Lord naman! Magpaulan ka naman ng katalinuhan!
Reliable source of information, sari-saring content na isinulat ng mga eksperto, mga librong di kalidad na abot hanggang sa doomsday, tumawag ka lang sa akin. By the way, hindi ako si Lord. Ako si Vibal.
O pre, tingnan mo to. Di ba sabi ko sa'yo totoo ang EDSA Revolution?
Oo nga, no? O tapos ito, wala pala talaga sa Naga ang bulkang Mayon.
Sabi ko sa'yo
Alright. Bago tayo magsimula, no? Una sa lahat, pumapatak po na 100 po ang viewers natin ngayon, live viewers. Ha? Grabe ito mga kaibigan. Siguro yung buong Charlotte Mason Authentique nanonood din. Kasama na iba pa nating mga kasama dito, Rio Brigino Lim, Kristine Mandigma Senior, Hideout from Summer, Gemma Bayot, Boy Aycocho, Marhay na Banggi from Legazpi City, Marilu Tanaleon Casimiro, Amy Adiwang. Hello Amy, my favorite signer. Ana Jaime Manuel Gomez Puruganan from Bulacan. Vilma Briones Chua, my mother. Congratulations, Professor Xiao Chua, my labing son. Nanette Cañete Panday, Ann Sibilia. Oh, hello po, no? Tess Alcantara. Oh, hello, Mama Ann Sibilia. Marie Cristia. Hello po. Blood Balaw, happy second anniversary. Yung unang episode po, si Blood Balaw the second, guest po natin. Hello po, no? Content creator din si Vlad Balaw, Ninette Cañete Panday, Ivy Aguilar, Angelo Gabriel de la Rosa, no? Josephine Albuena Kobayashi, Mar Ian Jose, hello po, Rochelle Gonzaga Gaita, John Maclit, Ninette Cañete Panday, Marie Chris El Bailon, at marami pang iba. So ngayon po, yan, tatawagin na po natin ang ating ayan, no? Lawrence Sakuma, no? John LC, hello. Rachel Rafael, binabati tayo ni Elijah from hello Elijah from si Charlotte Mason Authentique. Ayan, Lawrence Sakuma, Jack Remulla, no? Venice Balboa, ayan, hello. Sonson Fernandez from General Santos City. Ayan, all right. Roma Villarreal Santiago. Yes. Alright, sige. So, puntahan na po natin ang ating mga, yan. Yes, marami tayong matututunan ngayong gabi. Rachel Rivera, Jonel Say, Lexi Cocos Kid. Hello po, Lawrence Akuma. Okay, sige. Puntahan na po natin yung ating mga panauhin po ngayong araw na ito. Una ko pong ipapakilala po, no? Ang atin pong kasama dito, no? Magugulat to kayo. No? Isang estudyante po ng Charlotte Mason Authentique, si Binibining Zizou Salting. Hello po. Ayan.
Good evening.
Ayan, makasaysayang gabi, Zizou. Yes. At syempre, Zizou, no? If I know that it's rude to ask a girl her age, pero ilan taong ka na ba?
I'm 14 po. I'm turning 15 on September.
Wow. So, ano yun? Doon sa homeschoolers, meron din kayong parang grade. So, nasa grade ano ka na?
Year 9 po.
Grade 9. Alright, sige. Babalikan natin si Zizou, ha? Ayan, no? Binabati natin ang kanyang mga magulang, ano po, no? Si Ma'am, no? Leicha Salting at si Dr. James Salting, no? Si Dr. James Salting po, mga kaibigan, siya po ay siya yung tumingin sa akin nung ako ay nahulog, no? Nung nakaraang araw, no? So, marami pong salamat, no? Sa malaking tulong na yan. At syempre po, kasama din po natin from Charlotte Mason Authentique, si Binibining Leicha Sta Ana. Hello, Leicha.
Hello po, good evening po.
Ayan, good evening po. Good evening. Ilang taon na si Leicha?
13 po, turning 14 this October po.
Oh, wow. Sige. Una sa lahat siguro, bago ko tanungin si Leicha, si Zizou muna. Zizou, can you explain to us, no? Ano itong Charlotte Mason Authentique na na homeschooling group?
So Charlotte Mason Authentique is actually a philosophy of education which differs from that of a traditional school. So for example, my CMA group meets up 1 hour 3 times a week. And we discuss things like art. For example, we have studied music and art. We have studied Vincent van Gogh, and everyone cried when they heard his story. And
Right.
we have also studied Mahler in music study. And for me, CMA is like a gift because it teaches me to be independent in my learning. So every day I wake up and I get excited because I want to know what happens next in the books that I'm studying. For example, one of the books I have really gotten into recently is Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. It's very eye-opening, and I would recommend it to anyone who would like to know what it's about. So yeah, CMA is a gift to us homeschoolers, and I would like to thank my mom for letting me be homeschooled.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, Zizou. Uh, my question to Leicha is this: what? Because we people we're schooled in the school, so we go to school every day and have these subjects that are taught to us. We have textbooks. Leicha, tell us about the daily life of a homeschooler. If you don't go to school, what do you do?
So we wake up every morning. We open our eyes
Yes.
first. We open our eyes first, and then we get up, and we have this thing called habit training. It's one of the things that are very good when it comes to homeschool. So we have a checklist of how we need to fix our bed, we need to read our devotions, we need to do our morning chores. And then while we're eating breakfast, we're gonna read this book called Pilgrim's Progress as a family devotion. And then we will have general reading while my mom is still here. Sometimes it's science, sometimes it's the Bible, sometimes it's English, sometimes it's Filipino, sometimes it's
Right.
history, American or Philippine history. And then after that, we have our own personal readings because I have I have one brother and one sister. I'm the eldest, so we have different levels when it comes to our studies. So I have like literature, composition writing, and then I read for my literature. I have Age of Fable. My sister has Aesop or Winnie the Pooh, and my brother has Tom Sawyer or Heidi. And then after doing our own personal readings and personal studies, we're free for the rest of our day, and we usually like to spend that time investing on the things, on the gifts that God gave us. And then I know we're supposed to sleep early, but we don't. The end, yun lang.
Grabe, grabe. So please explain to us. So for example, the schooled people, we have a set what they call this learning for science so in your case, Leicha, that means that are your parents the one telling you what to read at a certain day?
Ano po, well, for our science po, we like to go out for nature studies. Like, for example, when we go to the park, we are recently studying about trees. So when we go to the park, we observe one tree as a whole family. So that's kind of like how our general study
Wow.
works. So,
But do you have like modules that are like provided to you by a Charlotte Mason Authentique, or perhaps a prospectus, a set of readings, or what?
yes, we do po. We have book guides po.
Book guides. Zizou, you want to talk about the book guides? How do they work?
Well, sir, for me, when I was younger, I used to do assigned readings, but as I got older, I was allowed to go deeper into the topics that I like. So, for example, I have been really interested in biology and human anatomy. So, what my parents would allow me to do, they would allow me to read books on biology and on anatomy. Then I would kind of make a narration of my own so that I can retain the information that I find the most valuable.
Wow, wow. This is opener for a lot of us, because for some of us, we have this notion that it has to be in a certain order and you have to learn this way. but it seems that you're given a free, shall we say, a free hand to actually explore, especially the things that you have the aptitude for. Meaning, the for some of our viewers, this means that kung ano yung hilig nila, yun ang napalalalim nila. Di ho ba? Although you still, for example, Zizou, yan, thank you. Very good. Zizou, do you, what are your favorite subjects, for example?
Human anatomy, of course. I'm currently using Snell's Human Anatomy, which is a medical book. And I also read on biology using various books. I would sometimes read on science with a mix of biology, so I can get information on all the topics.
But since you're interested in science and you've been reading all of this stuff, how about the lessons of history? So for example, is history your, if you are interested in science, then there's an assumption that you're not so interested with the social sciences or with history. So how are you able to, you're still interested in history, and how are your parents keeping you abreast with history?
I still do study history po. My favorite book on the Looking Back series by Ambeth Ocampo is Rizal
Yeah.
Without the Overcoat. And I have finished Teodoro Agoncillo's Philippine History, and I'm currently reading the history of the Filipino people.
By Teodoro Agoncillo as well. I recommend the 5th edition, which was written with Milagros Guerrero. Even if it's very old, it's still very good. I'll go to Leicha. Leicha, what is your favorite subject?
Mine is literature po.
Literature. Okay, so if literature is your cup of tea, despite that you're free to actually talk about literature, and I mean to explore literature topics, you still are abreast with your science, what do you call this? How do you make sure that you do not forget to study about other topics like science, mathematics that you need to study?
We have scheduling po. Like for a certain
Yan.
day,
Yan.
for a certain day, for example, Monday, we just focus about the Bible and everything. And then science, the next day, American history, the next day, Philippine history, the next day, music, the next day. Ganun po kami.
So that is
So-
what I want to learn. That actually there are days where you study certain things, and okay, perfect. Now, if you look at it, if I am in your situation, I know I'm not going to make it. Because you know this regiment needs a certain level of discipline. Miss Zizou Salting, how do you teach us to develop this kind of time management and discipline? How do you do it?
So, sir, it's actually not that long. It usually lasts around 20 to 30 minutes. And speaking on scheduling, we usually do Plutarch or the lives of the Greeks and Romans on Wednesday. Then on Friday, we would do, say, Shakespeare or another classic author.
So there are times when, are there no times when you feel that you just want to play or do whatever you want and just leave your, you know, this is the problem of us.
Sir, actually, in the mornings, I would usually swim before I study. Then at night, I would play badminton. So my day is already filled with a lot of things. And I think I'm getting enough of both sides. I'm getting enough of studying and enough of physical activity.
So that means that you're able to develop discipline because you are not regimented in such a way that you only study and that's the only thing that you have to do, and you stay home and all. That you're able to actually become well-rounded as much. Like tell us about your how you play.
Well, after we're done po, there was this one time we studied outside at the playground. And then it was very tempting, I'm not gonna lie. And I had a hard time because, like I said, we have general reading, and I had a hard time composing my brother and sister. So I did like, if we read this one topic and then they get the board, then they can play. I will just time them for like 15 minutes. There is like, we really need to have this discipline. We need to be a bit strict with ourselves, because like there's so much time in our hands po. So there are times talaga po na I need to be strict, and then after we read another topic, and then they can play again. So ganun lang po.
Ayan, okay. So, before I go to the last question, before you ask me questions, and I'm kind of nervous. I did not really prepare. I just, if I don't know the answer, I will say I did not know the answer. But I do not know the answer. But what is the role of the parent in the homeschooling way of education? We'll go first to Leica.
It's to create an atmosphere po. First of all, like that is a very big time, ano po, because Charlotte Mason says that there needs to be this certain kind of atmosphere so that we will not be stressed. It should be enjoyable, it should be breathable. Because sometimes I used to go to traditional school also, and it was always so, to put it metaphorically, it was hard to breathe. But in homeschool, we can enjoy studying freely, and that's thanks to the atmosphere that the parents create. They're kind of like a shepherd also, who take care of sheep, because they need to set an example for us, and they need to teach us. And sometimes we do research with them. Sometimes they become our classmates, because like I'm like, Mama, what is the answer to this? Let's ask a Google. So that's how sometimes we also become classmates. So that's what I like about homeschooling. It's not that because teachers in traditional schools, they shove things down your throats. No offense, it just feels like that. But in homeschooling, you learn. Like your parents will learn with you. Like open po sila. They're open for knowledge as much as you. So you know.
Yun. Sergio Lazaro, hello. Thank you very much for watching. So the role of the parent, I like your terminology, is to shepherd. And also they became co-learners with you. Zizou, I would like to ask you, because I think it's your mom, Mom Salting, who actually is the leader of the group. So what is the role of your parents in your homeschooling?
Yes, po. She founded the group back in 2020, I think. So the role of my parents, they help me feel comfortable with who I am. And when I study, they encourage that I narrate to them. But when I narrate to them, they do not tell me who was this person, what did he do, what year did he do it. They allow me to retain information that I learned, and because of that, stories I read years and years ago, I can still remember them today. And they allow us to. They're almost like providers. They provide us with a feast, with a buffet. And because of that, they allow me to get a taste of almost everything and to decide what I really want to do with myself. So when I was younger, my mom allowed me to start swimming and to also start taekwondo and to start ballet. And throughout the years, I have stuck with swimming. So because of my flexible schedule and because I really liked swimming, I was able to become a national swimmer in the Bahamas, because I lived from the Bahamas from ages 8 to 13, which was last year.
Wow. Now, okay, so the parents actually are the ones who are facilitating a good environment for learning. This is my dictum in teaching. Even if I teach in a university, my dictum is a happy learner learns faster. So that is why I do not give very hard projects to my students, and hopefully they appreciate that and they still learn. Now, my last question before you ask me question is this: how do you, in your own words, what is the tell us, make us learn what is the principle of Charlotte Mason in education, so that we can understand what is the difference between your homeschooling and other homeschooling, and also the what we call the traditional way of learning. Laika?
Ano po, education, there is this quote that Charlotte Mason, but the thing that Charlotte Mason said, but the thing that I remember the most is that it's an atmosphere. So every time that you breathe it in, it absorbs. Your body gets to absorb it. And the difference between traditional schooling, first of all, yun nga po, the atmosphere, it's very stressful, it's very hectic. They just like try to compress it in one day, which is why maganda nga po yung schedule namin mga homeschoolers, because it's very flexible, and we have like, yun nga po, we have yung each day po, loosen lang po yung schedule namin, and the atmosphere is breathable and ano po, enjoyable, and it's also a discipline and the life, because yun nga po, you asked us like how are we able to manage our time, because like there really are times where I just want to chillax and play. But that's one of the good things also as a homeschooler, because they're teaching you time management and alive, because usually the things that you learn in traditional school, since they just compress it to you, they push it down your throat, it's easy to forget. That's why every year you need to go back to hundreds, ones, and thousands again. But in homeschooling, we want to make sure that everything that we learn, we are able to carry it for the rest of our life, because when everything else is taken away from us, the knowledge that we have, it cannot be taken away from us. That's the difference between the traditional and homeschooling. You know?
Yeah. I guess there's just, shall we say, there are people that are really for the traditional schooling. For example, if I was homeschooled, I'd probably not learned anything. Because I'm really, my attention span is really very small. I tend to be out of focus a lot of times. Although, wow, I'm if you're going to look at how impressive these kids are, especially when they articulate themselves, I think you should give homeschooling another look. You see, Zizou, what is the principle of oh, by the way, Zizou, I would like to ask you before you answer that question. How do you, for example, there's this notion that since you are homeschooled, you don't get to learn social skills. Please tell us about this.
So that is something I would like to talk about. That signifies the importance of doing sports when you're homeschooled. So I have friends actually in badminton, and I also have friends because of the classes my mom provides for us.
Wow. So there you the sports element, in which I totally lack. Okay? But here is very important, because that is their way of learning social skills. So Zizou, what is the principle, in your own words, of Charlotte Mason? Help us learn, or help us to realize the importance of homeschooling and what you do.
So for me, the most important aspect in Charlotte Mason Authentique is being authentic, being your true self. Because my mom always told me that the reason we do CMA is because we want to be our own authentic selves under God's plan. Another thing I would like to address in CMA is that in our class, we have all taught ourselves to be accepting of everyone around us. So we have this one kid. Do you remember Elijah po? He
Yes, yes.
he has his own little group called like an agent squad, and everyone is actually very open with it. They like it. Some people even join his squad, and that's one thing I really like about Charlotte Mason Authentique. No one is judging and no one is judged. You can be your true self around everyone.
Shout out kay Elijah, some other time perhaps we're going to have this conversation as well. Elijah Rivera, is that right? Yeah, her mother Rachel Rivera. Yes. Anyway, sige. Yan. Chris SB from Bukidnon, hello. Jonel Say, Madel Kalayag, my former girlfriend. Kumusta ka, no? Ay, hindi. Dapat palakpak. Yan. Hello po, Miss Madel Kalayag of Tarlac. Siyempre, ang aking present girlfriend, Noela Mai Orozco. Ang friend sila ni Madel, ha? Oo. Kristine Reyes Villaseñor, go Ate Zizou daw. Oh, Jen de la Cruz, Nenet Cañete Panday. Wow po, very young. Oo, Kristine Reyes Villaseñor, go Ate Leicha. Dante Cese Flores, Rachel Rivera, nakaka-proud ka daw, Ate Zizou, Ate Leicha, na? Nino Noriel is watching from Australia, from the land down under. Nagpupuyat sa makikinig para sa aming bugoys na tulog na, excited na matutunan tonight. Lauren Sakuma, hello daw Ate Siso, from Olivia, Shishi, Zai pala. Hi Zizou, Rain Riley Gomez, Rudelin Stana, Jane, Alamogera, Dayan de Guzman, Malu Olfindo Maduli, Pia Javier, Jenilyn Aguirre, Rhea Cristina, hello. Yes. All right. So, I guess let's begin the session for the third anniversary special wherein the kids, they're not kids anymore actually. They're young, fine ladies. Get to ask me questions personal or what have you. If I don't know the answer, dito na siguro ma-expose na mas matalino pa yung mga bata sa akin. Oo. Anyway, sige. Laika, do you throw the first question?
I'll start with the personal questions po muna.
Yeah, sure.
What was your motivation po to be a historian? And how long have you been interested in history?
Oh, that's a very good question. I've been interested in history for as long as I think a few years after I was born. Remember that I was, when 40 years ago when Senator Benigno Ninoy Aquino was assassinated, I was at the tummy of my mother. So when I was growing up, that was the time of the People Power Revolution. I see it on television. I saw footages. I saw that the time of Cory Aquino, there were coup d'etats and all of these things that were happening and all of these milestone events. And that made me interested in history. There was a great earthquake in 1990. There was the Mount Pinatubo eruption. All of these historical things happening all at the same time. And that made me interested with history. And my teachers were very good at Tarlac First Baptist Church School. But eventually, I also got to know the works of Ambeto Campo. So like Zizou, I read Ambeto Campo when I was very young. I was in grade 5 when I first read him. And that started my interest in history. And in fact, when my tita died and my mother, Vilma, who's watching right now, I love you, brought me to Fort Santiago, I actually envisioned myself touring kids and touring people there. And in many ways, that is what I did to you last time, right? I already envisioned myself being a teacher. I wanted to reach as many people as possible. So I guess that's how I became interested with history. But first, before I talk to Zizou, Laika, how was the tour that we did yesterday at the Rizal Park Luneta? I know you were there. You were not there?
I'm in Korea po.
Oh. Oh. So it's Zizou who's going to answer that question. Zizou, how was the tour?
The tour was great po, but I think the one you're talking about is Felicity. She's a different student po.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah. So but let's talk about the tour. Yeah.
Yes po, I have a question about the tour. So while we were there in Rizal Park, I noticed that a lot of the heroes that were there had experienced personal oppression from
Right.
the Spaniards. So my question to you is, would I be right in saying that their judgment was clouded by their want for revenge against the Spaniards? For example, Hermano Pule, he started his own organization because the Spaniards did not allow him in theirs. So do you think he is any different from the Spaniards for being prejudiced against them, like how they are prejudiced against him?
Okay, that's a very good question. Let us probe that a bit. We are not really sure if Hermano Pule got rejected from the priesthood before he started the organization. We are actually doubting if he really got rejected from being a priest, because Filipinos are actually allowed to be a priest. They're not allowed to be in the convents, but they're allowed to be secular priests at that time. So the concept of racial prejudice, I know where you're coming from, because eventually Hermano Pule founded Cofradía de San Jose and accepted only Indios. They did not accept Spaniards. So was that a reaction, a revenge? Because as we all know, Jose Rizal said that he regretted killing Elias because if he knew that he's going to write about revolution, he would have preserved the life of Elias, who was a noble character, self-denying, patriotic, necessary qualities of a man who leads the revolution. Whereas Ibarra Simon was an egoist, was only provoked when his interests were hurt. So that is where you are coming from. You are thinking that if it's about personal vendetta, then you're no different from your kalaban. Now, I'm going to perhaps give a context to that. There are many contexts, depending on the hero. Francisco Dagoy, for example, was provoked when his brother was not given a proper burial, even if he died in the services of the friars. So, what we're saying here is, maybe the books and the biographies only focused on the personal reasons. Because this became a criticism of how we tend to focus on biographies. Now, I'm not saying that is not good, but if you look at the Dagohoy Revolt, even if his motivations were personal, the people will not join him if there is no underlying social current. Same with the Hermano Pule. But in many cases, Hermano Pule was different because Dagohoy revolted violently against the Spaniards. Hermano Pule did not want to start a fight. Perhaps he felt that he was not excluding he was excluding the Spaniards, not because he did not like them, but because he felt, and this is my speculation, he felt that he wanted to communicate to the people that understand the Filipino psyche. Because sometimes I don't want to include foreigners in certain tours that I have. You know why? Not because I do not like them, but because I want to talk in Filipino where Filipinos can understand me. Because it's different when you have a tour that is directed to foreigners. You will give different context, you will give so that they will understand. And sometimes it's easier to talk to Filipinos. So I'm thinking that Hermanopoli was doing it less of prejudice, but more of being able to communicate to the ordinary people. Oh? Kasi, you know why he's not prejudiced against the Spaniards? He was still donating money to the churches. So he was not, he wanted to become a legal organization that is recognized by the Spanish government. So it's really just, I guess, if you have, you know, if for example, Elijah had a group which they called whatever squad, it doesn't mean that if you're not part of it, that they will ostracize you or something. It's just that they felt that they want to be together, and that's that. So I guess that's how I can answer that question. But yes, what you pointed out is important because there are reasons that are personal when a revolution happens, but it cannot be successful and the people will not join it if there is no underlying social condition that precipitates such action. Kumbaga, in Tagalog, hindi nangyayari yung revolusyon na personal lang yung dahilan ng pinuno. Nangyayari ito kapag ka yung lipunan mo ay binubuyo niya yung tao na magalsa tulad ng hindi pagkakapantay-pantay o hindi maayos yung pamahalaan. Alright, thank you Zizou. That's a very beautiful question. Yeah. Sige. Lalim agad, grabe. Napasabak po ang aking English. No? Tumudugo na ho yung ilong ko, nakikita ninyo. Video lang ako. O sige, Leicha.
I have a question po
Wait, Leicha, I'm
about...
sorry. I have to cut you because my uncle Jaime Briones, Tito Jimmy from New Jersey is watching with my brother Mark Briones Chua. Hello. Salamat po, no. Elijah Molon. Yeah. Sorry. Elijah Molon, hi. Napagpalit ko yung mga nanay eh. Michelle Rafael yung nanay niya. Pero siya si Elijah Molon. Hindi siya, kasi akala ko pareho sila nung akala ko Rivera. Kasi Rachel Rivera. Napagpalit ko si Rachel Rivera. Kay Michelle Rafael. Kasi pareho silang Rachel. Sige. Grabe, wala na akong boses pero tuloy natin to kasi nag-enjoy ako. Leicha.
So, my question po is about two presidents. It's about Aguinaldo and Ferdinand Marcos because I don't know why, but I feel like more hatred is pointed towards Marcos rather than Aguinaldo because they were both heroes, but both of them also did the bad stuff. But I don't know if the loss in Marcos' time was greater. Is that why a lot of people didn't really like him? Or was there another reason why a lot of people really didn't like him?
Well, first of all, we have to look at the distance. I have to disagree that Marcos should be considered a hero. He was a president. I'm sorry, this is controversial. You can take it or leave it. You know already what my stand on this. But the main difference is this. The time distance is Emilio Aguinaldo did his heroism and whatever controversial things he did more than 100 years ago. So with distance, you'll be able to have, and with less politics, less political feeling, you're able to see more clearly their achievements, their faults, and what we can learn from them. That's why I like reading about American presidents. Because when you look at American presidents, they look at the biographies of American presidents. You look at them and you will see the good things and the bad things. You see? So, when it comes to Marcos, Marcos was just what? 50 years ago? there's still people who are alive that were able to experience his administration, the good and the bad. And so that is why, in many ways, the feeling, they say more hatred, you said more hatred. The feeling was really intense even today, especially because despite the fact that that was already 50 years ago, martial law was 50 years ago, the families are still there. So Marcos is already dead, but the family is still here and affecting our lives. Whereas I think the Aguinaldos are confined to local politics in Kawit, Cavite, and in the Cavite province. So, another factor about Aguinaldo was that despite his mistakes, Aguinaldo was part of the creation of the nation, shall we say, because he was president of the First Philippine Republic. So, even if you do not like Aguinaldo, you cannot ignore that he was the father of the Declaration of Independence. He was the father of the flag and the national anthem, which we still sing. So, we recognize his faults, we recognize his greatness. With Marcos, maybe we should recognize that he had good projects. I do not want to call him a hero, but he had good projects. But he also did bad. In fact, he did the bad, terribly bad. That's the problem with him. And not only that it affected generations to come. So I guess that's how I would answer the question. The big difference I think is, again, two things. Yung time element, we have more distance with Aguinaldo. And number two, that Aguinaldo was part of the creation of the nation. So in many ways, because of his role in that, we retain his greatness. Wow. Sorry, interesting questions there. Wow. See, alam nyo, look at their questions ha. Hindi yung basta-basta lang na. Napaka-complex. No? Kaya talagang masasaluduhan natin ang mga magulang na nagpapatupad nitong Charlotte Mason Authentique. Ha? I think makakatulong tayo dyan, and I'm already working with Leia in putting more Filipino content. Filipino meaning Filipino culture. Kasi the purpose of my advocacy really is yung tinatawag natin na cultural education. Meaning, even if you're studying math, even if you're studying MAPE, even if you're studying all these subjects, science, biology, name it, you can make examples of Philippine culture. You can make example of Philippine base. Kaya nga maganda yung sa Charlotte Mason Authentique na when you study biology, you look outside, you look at the trees that is in your community, di ba? You look at the animals that are in your community, because that is basically what I want for Filipinos. Hindi yung nag-aaral tayo, kasi alam nyo, ganito yan eh. I think it's just a balance. Hindi masamang mag-aaral ng mga bagay na foreign. Hindi masamang mag-aaral niyan. Don't condemn these kids if they know how to speak in English and they have paintings of masters, international masters on their wall. Kasi yung iba nag-iisip na, makakanluranin naman ng mga bata itong mga ito. No. We should not do that. Tingnan natin kung paano natin pwedeng paunlarin ang pakikipagtalastasan sa kanila using our culture. Diba? And I think I am working with Leia closely on this. We will begin, pero of course eventually we'll have more events, no? Pertaining to this. Sige, thank you, Leicha. Let's go to Zizou. Yeah, hello Zizou. Okay ka pa?
Speaking of what you said, teaching from our culture, my dad actually dreams of the day we can teach medicine in Filipino. He's
Wow.
actually a doctor. So the Cubans have already done it. The Russians are already doing it. So from one controversial question to another, do you think it is true that the pre-colonial Visayans helped the Spaniards in conquering the Philippines?
Oh yeah, that's true. The one who taught me this was Professor Vicente Villan. Professor Vicente Villan is the expert on the Hangaway. What is the Hangaway? They were the early warriors of the Visayas. And I always give lectures about this, and I always give credit to Vicente Villan, whom I love so much because he was like a mentor. He's a mentor to me. And he taught us through his research that what happened was when Miguel Lopez de Legazpi went to Iloilo, Panay and Iloilo. This is in Panay Island. Okay? After he went to Cebu, because he did not like Cebu. I love Cebu. But Legazpi did not like Cebu because he cannot plant a lot of things. So he went to Panay. And in Panay, he saw the mangangayaw. Not mangangayaw, the hangaway. The warriors. We also call them bagani. And he saw them with a lot of tattoos. Or we call them batek. They are all batikan. You know why? Because if you are a warrior and you killed a lot of people already, a lot of enemies, they will put tattoos on your body every time you win a victorious battle. So if you have more tattoos, that means that you are more victorious and you are the like the star of the bagani. Now, that's it. When Legazpi went to the Visayas, to Panay, the people of Panay actually accepted them. And their interest was, they wanted to use the Spaniards so that they can attack the people of the North. Because the people of the North, especially people from Mindoro, attacked them during their, during their drought. When there was a drought, the people of Mindoro attacked them. So they wanted to have revenge. And remember, when it's always like this, the narrative that was put to us before in Philippine history is that the Spaniards conquered Manila. Actually, the Visayans were probably about just 200 people. And then there are about 1,000 Visayans who were with them. So if you look at what happened to the invasion of Manila, it was actually the Visayans who were able to help the Spaniards. And that is why that is true. In fact, the people of Panay, especially Iloilo, they will be so faithful to the Spaniards that up to the Philippine Revolution of 1896, they sent soldiers, Ilonggo soldiers, for the Spaniards to help quell Andres Bonifacio. They don't like Bonifacio. The Ilonggos, because they were faithful to the Spaniards. The Spaniards made them the soldiers for the sea warfare. Because for the land warfare, we, the Kapampangans, were the ones that the Spaniards used. So the Ilonggos for the sea water, the Kapampangans for the land. So, sea warfare, the Kapampangan for the land warfare. So, going back to 1571, it was the Spaniards who conquered, it was the Spaniards with the help of 1,000 Visayans who conquered Manila. So, this is what I tell people from the Visayas. Today is the National Language Month, right? And they always say, na Bisaya dapat yung national language natin. But sabi ko nga dyan, Manila is the capital. and the national language is Tagalog because that is the language of the capital. Okay. The Visayans would have had their chance. You know why? Because they could have made Manila Visayan. But according to Professor Billian, it was the Visayans who integrated to the Tagalogs and became Tagalog. Do you get me? So they became Tagalogs. And the Spaniards were able to have their foothold eventually. Especially when the Tondo conspiracy happened in, I think, 1585. So, if you're going to look at that, that is what happened there. It is true that the Visayans actually conquered Manila with the Spaniards and helped in the conquest of the Philippines. Now, the more important question is this, Zizou. Well, the Visayans of the Kapampangans, can they be considered traitors because they sided with the Spaniards? You know, my answer is more complicated. My answer is no. Because by collaborating with the Spaniards, at the time when we still did not have a nation, they were thinking of their interests. They are thinking of how they're going to benefit from the Spaniards.
Sir, you mean it's like kingdom versus kingdom?
Correct. So, we don't have a nation yet. The birth of the nation will happen during the time of Rizal and Bonifacio. So, those who sided with the Spaniards are acting on their own interests, and their faithfulness is on their own people. So, the Kapampangan sided with the Spaniards, it is because they know that they're going to benefit from it. But it's different now if we have a nation. If you're going to ally yourself with another country, that's a different story. Diba? I hope I answered your question. Thank you very much. Ang galing ng mga batang ito. Ang galing ng mga batang. 14 years old. Alam mo, mahilig ako sa history nun, pero hindi ako ganyan kagaling. Diba? Although I hope, of course, at hindi ko naman sinasabing mayabang ang mga batang ito, ano? But of course, you know, we are also taught that the more we learn, the more we know that there is more to learn. And the more you learn actually must make you humble. Because you will realize that even if you know a lot of things, the world would still be a mystery and there are things that you still cannot understand. And that means that you can never be better than anyone. At best, you should defeat yourself. Because, you know, ako nga defeatist nga ako eh. I should defeat myself. Because many times I'm defeatist. Okay, thank you, Zizou. Leicha. Next question.
Speaking of language, well, it's not really language. It's actually a form of writing. I know all of us Filipinos are familiar with baybayin, but so we studied about baybayin and I memorized it by heart. And I wanted to every time I write in Tagalog, I prefer to use baybayin. So
Yeah.
my question po is, if we people who know baybayin by heart, if we start using it slowly and we encourage more people to use baybayin, could it be possible that we might be able to but will it be possible for baybayin to be used on the whole Philippines again? Yun po.
Well, I appreciate baybayin. I do not know how to write it. Okay, I still have to consult the list. Okay, when I read baybayin, so I'm actually having difficulty reading baybayin without a guide. Well, for me, I like it to be appreciated, but to force it to force it so that we can eradicate the use of the Roman alphabet might be counterproductive. Okay, and I will cite 2 reasons why it is counterproductive. Number 1, we've been using Roman alphabet for say 400 years, 4 centuries. So to undo it is to really undo a lot of things. Just remember, we will have to put out new signages, the books will have to be translated, etc. So that might be, counterproductive in the sense that instead of doing other things, why would you fix something that is not broken? So I'm not against the use of baybayin as a aesthetic, meaning you use baybayin to remember our ancestors and to enhance our aesthetic beauty. So, but to use it again as a form of everyday life might be counterproductive. Number 1. Number 2, I will tell you something. This is a fact of life. That forcing anything to anyone is just the worst idea. Meaning, even if you prohibit something, people will still do it. Kaya nga sinasabi lang, masarap ang bawal. So, how do you make the idea, how do you make an idea proliferate? Ipagbawal mo siya. So, if you're going to force the people to go back to the to the baybayin, that means that people will just hate you for it. And they will just hate baybayin more. Okay. Number 3, I have third pala. The third is, baybayin is Tagalog. The Mangyans have their own, the Kapampangan have their own, the Visayas have their own. So if we force just one baybayin to the whole country, that would again be counterproductive because the Visayas would just say, forget it. And so, to answer that question, ito na nga yun, that we should recognize all baybayins, or in fact, wag nang baybayin yung tawag, all surat or suyat or writing in Filipino, and make them important. So, to enhance the aesthetic beauty of our country. We encourage the use of baybayin. In fact, I talk many times about baybayin, but of course, it's really counterproductive. I hope that I'm very clear with what I said. I'm not against baybayin, definitely not. I encourage people using it, but just to enhance what we already have. Thank you, Leicha. Ayan, Lance Bam, proud parent daw. Carlo Troy Acelot Manalo, pwede po kayo makahingi ng certificate. Wala na tayo certificates na pinoproduce, di ba? Oo, Gia Maria, I just knew this na Filipinos somehow help Spaniards pala. Especially Ilonggos who sent soldiers against Bonifacio. Hindi lang yun. When we talk about the Philippine Revolution, when we talk about Philippine rebellions, yung rebellions that happened before the coming of the Philippine Revolution, when you talk about the Spaniards defeating the Filipinos, it was not purely Spanish army. There were people, Indios, that were taken who volunteered and paid for their services to Spain. Ang mga officer lang dyan, mga Kastila, pero yung mga tao nila, mga Pilipino din. Diba? Sige, Zizou.
Sorry, I actually have 2 questions. So
Yeah, please.
the first one is, how did we lose our alphabet in the first place? Do you think it is because of colonial mentality? And speaking on that, do you think colonial mentality has been brought to us by the Spaniards, or has it always been innate with us? Because, for example, long time ago, the people of Tondo were like the people of Makati and BGC. They were like the in group because they had all the new things, the new foreign things. So do you think that the admiration for foreigners or for foreign materials, do you think it has been introduced to us by the Spaniards, or has it always been with us?
Oh, okay, that's an interesting question. First of all, in the matter of the loss of our alphabet or baybayin, syllabary, ganito. I always had discussion with Zizou Salazar with this. And I think he just doesn't understand me or what. But we end up arguing. Because I always say that the use of baybayin, although widespread, was not used by the ordinary people. Okay. Those who know how to write baybayin of the suyat, many of the groups are related, are just the elites of the, or the elites meaning the datu class and the babaylanes. Why? To record financial documents like the Laguna Copper Plate inscription or prayers like the Kalatagan Pater inscription. That's why if you look at the UST archives, and there are baybayin scripts there from the 16th century, they were not written by ordinary people. They were written by landed principalia who knew baybayin. So they have titles saying that I am donating this, I am selling this in baybayin. Okay. That said, what happened to the ordinary people from the pre-colonial or from the sinaunang bayan who became part of the Spanish colonialism? I believe that when they were taught the Roman alphabet, that was their first time to write. Which means that in the next generations, when people who did not know how to write before learned the Roman alphabet, then they were able to get used to the Roman alphabet. Because if you're going to look at it, this is my new view. If you're going to look at the Doctrina Christiana, the Spaniards did not try to erase baybayin. The baybayin was there. When they were teaching the people how to pray, the Our Father, the Hail Mary, they were using the baybayin too. But if it was not used as widespread and were only confined to the elites, then those who knew how to write Roman alphabet because they learned it from the Spaniards will outgrow them all. So I do not think it's because the Spaniards wanted to kill our baybayin, but because the people acquired new way of writing through the Roman alphabet. So and in time, eventually baybayin got sidetracked. Now, when it comes to your other question, which is the acquisition of well, it helped. It mitigated the colonialism that happened to us, mitigated our desire for foreign goods. And to think that when you go outside of the Philippines, you will get ginhawa. But this is what I'm going to tell you. Our love for foreign goods were already here even before. You know why? If you look at the gold statues of Butuan, the Golden Tama, for example, was a part of Buddhism. The Golden Tama was a Buddha. So, if you see Buddhist, that's not part of the in Philippine mythology. But you see an item in Gagusan, in Butuan, Okay. The other thing is, if you look at the Filipinos, we were traders already for 1,000 years before the Spaniards came. So we are used to getting Chinese porcelain, which were found in many archaeological sites and graveyards of our ancestors around the country. Porcelain. In short, mahilig na tayo sa imported. Because we see imported goods as prestige good, status symbol. In fact, they're so important, they will get buried with them. Because that means you have the money to either buy them or you are a warrior who was able to capture from another bayan. And so in many ways, the balikbayan box that goes back with imported goods to our country, I don't think it's a bad thing. Because that's how a bayani who fought in another land brings back the goodies of kaginawaan to the people. Now, it only becomes a problem. Kasi parang, you know, we always look at Filipino nationalism as by Filipino. Diba? Parang to support, of course. Pero hindi naman ibig sabihin na huwag ka nang mag-foreign shoes. Hindi naman ganun yun. Hindi naman dapat ganun ka-rigid yun. Diba? So, yeah, you can show different ways of wala naman ng purely Filipino product eh. 'Di ba? Meron. I'm sure meron. Pero ibig ko sabihin, wala naman most of the things that we use are really, a lot of them were manufactured in China but they were sold by Filipinos, 'di ba? It's still part of our economy. So, I guess that's that, no. Yun lang. The only bad thing about consuming products from outside is not the consumption, but if you think of it as superior to what you have, that's when colonial mentality happens. Di ba, Zizou? Well, when you think of it as superior than what you have. So, yun lang siguro. Yeah. I hope I answered your question. Yeah. Parang hindi ka convinced. Do you have clarification? You know, I tell you, before you speak, our obsession with being white, okay, is not foreign. Because even the epics, according to Professor Vicente Villan, describe beautiful women as white as the sun. The Spaniards came here. They wrote that some of the women in the Philippines are actually whiter than our women. So, of course, if you are the only white fair-skinned lady in the town, you are considered beautiful because you're a rarity. So, yes, we had it already before. The Binukot, who talk about the epics, are white, fair-skinned people. So we have that culture already. Now, what happened was, when these Spaniards came and then the Americans came, and you have Doña Victorina, diba, who wanted to become Spaniard so that he puts powder, and you have whitening lotion, diba? There are studies that said that yes, it's colonial mentality, but also because we assume or we assume that white is clean. So there's a study of Michael Tan, Dr. Michael Tan and his group, that tells us that some of the consumers of whitening skin whitening are actually the construction workers. Male construction workers. You know why? Because they associate being white with being clean. So, if they want to be kissed by their ladies, they wanted to have their skin whitening. Thank you, Zizou. Sige, I think we can go to our last two questions. Siguro. Oh? Last two questions for each. So, 4 na question pa. Kasi it's 8:37. So, Leicha, you have a question?
I read something about the 3 races of the Philippines, the early 3 races of the Philippines. My question is, why did the Malay and Indonesians help each other push back the Aitas back in the mountains instead of just living with them?
Okay, the 3 races, are you talking about the Ita, Indones, and the Malay, right? And you've read about them perhaps in old books. Okay? You've read about them in old books. Now, what we recently found out, and I think this was already taught to you, that we do not actually subscribe to that theory anymore. Because we call them the Austronesians. So, our early ancestors were the Austronesians, and these Austronesians came from Taiwan. Okay? But they're not Chinese. Okay? They were like us. They're brown skinned, a lot of them. And they went to the Philippines and they invented the outrigger canoe, which is the bangkang may kating. And eventually populated Southeast Asia. So in many ways, the Austronesian, when you look at the Austronesian theory, the Indonesians and the Malaysians, we did not necessarily come from them. Okay? But there was intermarriages and trade and, moving in and out that eventually made us one people. And that DNA spread to Hawaii, to South Pacific, to New Zealand, to Madagascar, to Easter Island in South America. So, what happened was, when, and this is the belief, when the Austronesians populated the Philippines, and they became many, it was said that they pushed the Aitas, the ones who were earlier than us, here to the mountains. Okay, that's just a theory. What I'm saying here is, I believe they probably live together. I mean, live in the sense that they did not, nobody pushed one or the other. We just existed in our own lands, universe, whatever. And I guess even had contacts with each other. But again, the Aitas were able to maintain that they intermarried within their own group. Well, of course, there would be some exceptions, but that is that. I think we have a product of all of that. So whatever it is that we are now, diba? The DNA will tell us that we're part Negrito, we all came from Africa, by the way, diba? We're part whatever. See, that's why Ma'am Leicha Salting always said that the favorite line that I always say, her favorite line is that never find the pure Filipino, because there's no such thing. The Filipino now is the Filipino that is a product of history. Yeah. I hope I'm not boring you, Miss Zizou, but yeah, let's go to Zizou.
Sorry po. So my next question, I have read somewhere that in Pampanga they have statues of the kamikaze or the suicide pilots.
Right.
Now, in your opinion, do you think it was appropriate for them to put up those statues when they are people who have killed Filipinos?
No, I do not think it was proper. I hope I was already old enough to voice my opinion when they put the statue in Bamban. Because I'm from Tarlac City. And Bamban is part of Tarlac province. And they put the statue there in Tarlac or Mabalacat. This is the boundary. They put the statue there because it was the birthplace of the kamikaze. That was the place where the kamikaze was first instituted. So we all thought that kamikaze has been there all along. No, it was founded in that area. Okay, that they're going to give themselves to the emperor and they're going to have suicide attacks and all of that. Okay, now that said, to put a likeness of a person there makes them heroes. Now, in the Japanese perspective, they might be heroes. But in fact, sa totoo lang, even in the Japanese perspective, a lot of the historians there think of many of the Japanese, despite the fact that these are their countrymen, that these are war criminals. These are war criminals, okay? So you put a statue there. You can put that statue in Japan. But to put it here is, I don't like it.
Sir, so
Now, of
then
course, I'm not go.
here?
Yes, what?
why is it here then? Why do you think it is here?
Well, because it was accommodated by the past administrations. What could they have done is that to just place the marker there, or perhaps a marker, not a statue of a human being, just a marker recognizing, and they can visit that all the time if they want. Why is it there? Because someone perhaps wanted to be nice to the Japanese because they're going to profit from it. Not profit in the sense that they're going to have corruption. No. It's just that they felt that, accommodating the Japanese may have done great things for them, for their town or whatever. Same with what happened, Zizou, closer to home, during the time when the Comfort Women statue that we erected in the Manila Bay was removed. And it was President Duterte who actually called for its removal because it was
Yes,
asked
sir.
by the Japanese
Because
government.
for me, it's almost like putting a statue of Hitler in the
Yeah,
Auschwitz.
exactly. I agree. I totally agree, Zizou. But yeah, that's how it is. So, but it's but to take it would be in bad taste because it's already there. It might, I don't know, maybe there would be a time when someone would talk to the Japanese and said, just bring the statue home. You can put it, in a respectable place in Japan. And we can just put a marker in Bamban. Yeah. Salamat, Zizou. Okay. 8:45 p.m. Wow. Buti naman. How did I fare, people? How did I fare? Please put it in my comments. But, for me, it's not the answers of the professor, but the questions of the students that matter here, ladies and gentlemen. O, sige. Last question na ni Leicha, tama ba? Yeah. By the way, sorry. If you have questions for the kids, please. Oh, James David Salting, ang bilis daw. Oh, Dr. James. Oh, alas 9 na, di ba? Ayoko naman na. Ang dami may mga tanong. We can ask the kids, no? Oo. Sige. Oo. Ayan, Miguel Lopez kasi Aba Monument in Cebu who burned down Cebuano community. Oo nga, di ba? Oo. Well, pero again, ibang Cebu eh. The Cebuanos have a very good way of balancing their colonial history, their love for the Spanish era, but also their Cebuano identity. Which is a good balance, I think. Tama yan, Prof. So my mind before was a symbol of hierarchy society, same with learning Spanish language. Yes. For me. That's my opinion. Sige, Leicha.
So, one of the things po that I don't really like back then in the textbooks is that the dates were treated more important than the people. Because
Right.
would you agree po ba with me that when it comes to history, we remove the story by just focusing on the dates instead of the story of each person that made the building blocks, that made up the history itself po. So, yun.
You know, Leicha, kasi ganito yan eh. There are some people who like to learn history through timeline. Kasi timeline, mabilis mong makita. It's really very straightforward. And you see the flow of the story. Pero kasi, the timeline is supposed to be enjoyable eh. Which means that if you just read it for casual reading, it's enjoyable. But if you make people memorize it, that's where the problem begins. And then again, yun na nga eh. For me, pinapamemorize ko talaga yan. Yung mga proper names. Because paano ka naman papasa sa history, hindi mo kilala si Andres Bonifacio. Dapat man lang alam mo yung pangalan ni Andres Bonifacio, ni Jose Rizal, ni Ferdinand Magellan, ni Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, kahit yung madadali. Yung basic gusto ko, alam mo yun. Kasi parang, alam mo yun, kung wala ka naman, kung sana naman may natutunan ka man lang kahit na yung, di ba? Kung kasi ganito yan. Pag hindi mo alam yung facts, hindi mo rin siya maikukwento ng maayos, di ba? Pero, ang focus ay sa kwento, hindi doon sa facts. So, sa mga project ko, gusto ko na ikukwento ng bata o ng estudyante yung kasaysayan. At yung kwento na yun yung kwento ng tao na sinasabi mo. Kasi kung nakafocus ka sa pangyayari, yung pangyayari hindi naman mangyayari yun. Yung date na yun hindi naman mangyayari yun kung wala yung tao. So naalala mo, Zizou, no tour natin, ay tackle the 3 de Abril revolt of Leon Quilat of Cebu. Diba? Pero I did not stop there. Hindi ko sinabi, this is Leon Quilat, he led the April 3, 3 de Abril revolt. Tapos, no, I told you the story kung paano siya nagkaroon ng idea to have revolution. It is because he was actually exposed to the Katipunan. He was a worker in the shipyard. He went back to Cebu to plan the Abril 3 and that he was betrayed after 3 days by his own Cebuano people. Pinatay siya ng sarili niyang kababayan. Which is, the real tragedy is that after we start revolutions, we started to eat each other. When we are planning things for our nation, we started to divide. So that is my problem. And we're able to, I talked about it. Diba? I did not just talk about the facts. So, ganun sana yung history. Ganun sana, at least may pakita natin na yung kasaysayan ay according to Xiao Salazar. And I hope you're going to read Xiao Salazar, ano? Although it's very hard to read him. I can give an English version, no? Kasi si Xiao Salazar, sabi niya, dapat sa Filipino tayo nag-aaral ng kasaysayan. I can give you an English version. Pero, maganda yung sinasabi niya, ang kasaysayan ay nagmula sa salitang saysay. Ang saysay isang kwento at ito ay mahalaga. Gia Maria, Prof, do you still have another live session for this month of Kasaysayan? So every 2 weeks po ang program natin. I think next episode, I'm going to talk about Zamboanga history with Feliz Noel Rodriguez. Ayan ang naisip ko. Kasi si Ma'am Feliz, very, very important historian ng ating panahon. And she can talk about Southeast Asia and all of that. So that's my next plan. Except baka mabago, but let us look at it. Lance ba, madami daw natutunan, busog na busog for additional knowledge. Carl Ada, Leslie Makuha, parang wala namang sakit, napagaling. Leslie from Clarendon College. Hello, namiss ko na yung mga taga Rojas, Mindoro. Yeah, Marcelo Arizona Celis. Meron sa Cebu, yeah. Bitin na naman, sabi. Kasi this is like our second meeting, di ba? Together. Oh. Did you enjoy that, Leicha? That the session we had a month ago? Oh, Zizou. Zizou, shoot your last question.
Okay, so my last question is, I remember yesterday during the tour, you said to us kids that we should not start a revolution unless necessary. So for you, what are the requirements? Where do we draw the line and start a revolution?
Wow, that's a hard question because I do not plan to wage a revolution. So, but a very hard question, but let us try to answer it. Let's look at the example of the People Power Revolution. You know, the People Power Revolution, the first plan was not that. The first plan of Enrile and Onasan was to attack the palace. Okay. To attack the palace, but the coup d'etat, which have, brought bloodshed to both sides who are fellow Filipinos, was averted. Okay? Cory Aquino was planning a 10-day boycott civil disobedience from February 16 to February 25. That civil disobedience is do not buy from the products that support the regime, you withdraw all your money from PNB, and then there would be a mass strike and work stoppage on February 25. EDSA was not part of the plan. Okay? So, mayroon tayong tinatawag na hinog na ang panahon para sa himagsikan. At yung hinog na panahon sa himagsikan, tao ang magdidesisyon. It is the people who are going to decide that this is the time. Same with what happened in the 1896 revolution. Bonifacio planned the revolution for 5 years. From 1892 to 1896. 4 years. 4 years. His plan was 1 week 1 week late than it started. He wanted to attack Manila on August 30. But they have to start the revolution on the 23rd or the 24th. You know why? Zizou, Andres Bonifacio in one account said he doesn't want the revolution yet to start because many people will die. But he cried when he heard the cries of the people that said, let us fight now. And that's when he decided, let us begin the revolution. This is in the work of Raymar Ison about the first battles of the revolution based on accounts of Katipuneros. Okay?
Sir, yes, I remember that. I had read the part where he heard the cries of the people from Supremo.
Yes. And that was that, right? And so, for me, the time is right when the people already felt that enough was enough. There's no, shall we say, there's no formula for it. But when the people already are feeling the oppression, when the people are already feeling that this is enough, then it's them who's going to act. The leadership is important, but also it's the people's decision to start the rebellion. Now, whether it's something that it's really hard to tell what are the requirements. But yeah, for me, it's the desire of the people to be free. Yeah. Wow. Malu Orfiano Maduli, God bless you more, Prof. Hope you feel better soon. Irene Evangelista, Gia Maria, Genevieve Espina, when we start a revolution, we start to eat each other. Yeah, that's the problem. Esther Grace Bong Abejero, Harvey M. Parinas, super interesting mga questions nila. Oliver John Quintana, pagbati Professor Xiao, napakayaman ng talakayan, ang gagaling na mga kasamang mag-aral. Kasi so I'm going to look at questions here, ano? Baka may mga tanong. Jimmy Cipriano Uy Jr., hello. Sander Porfindo Pascual, watching from nearby siya. Alam nyo, hindi bumibitaw ang mga viewers natin. 90 plus viewers from earlier to today. 90 plus. Mga bata, dapat yata every quarter pinapalabas ko kayo dito, no? Hindi, pero alam nyo, ito kasi yun Bakit? Hindi ito about me, okay? Na sumasagot ang tanong ng mga bata. I want to know what the students want to ask. Ano ba yung tinatanong ng mga bata when they read Philippine history? Ako hindi ko rin alam Alam mo yon? Hindi natin alam lahat yun. Ano ba yung tinatanong? Kapag ang bata nagbasa ng proper Philippine history, ano yung mga tanong? Ngayon natin alaman. At ilan pa lang yan. Bitin na nga sila. Ang dami siguro hinanda ng mga bata Oh. But you see now na, wow, if we're going to let the kids or let the students, the young adults, ask the questions, if we let them, if we give them the chance, then you're going to hear what they want to know. Yan. Sander Porfirio Pascual, Marcelo Arizona Celis, sabi niya, totoo ba sir ang wikang Espanyol na nagbigay identity sa pre-Hispanic Filipinos para maging Filipino? Now, our Filipino identity was created because the Spaniards made us one territory. Pero kasi, even before that, we were Austronesians. We had the maritime culture which is our own na binuo lang nila into one territory. So that means that if you want a Filipino identity, you go back even before the Spaniards. Ayan, Las Piñas historian, Prof. Xiao, sino ang Pilipino? I answered that in a video, the Filipino Story Episode 1, What is the Filipino? Lovely Puentes Bangkale, hello. Debbie Karen Gelsano watching from Surigao. Carlo Troy Acelot Manalo. Lovely Fuentes Biancale. Claribel Balanga Marcelo. Hello. Mylene Mira Bartola Bagayas. Leslie Makuha. Yan. Rose, thank you for mentioning Mangyan script. Hanunuo Mangyan. Ano nga ba yun? Ambahan poems. Ang ganda ng ambahan poems na written in the Mangyan script. Rosalie Akunin, Alex Alvarez, yes, Leslie Makuha, Carlo Troy Acelot, Lance Bam, sorry, hindi ko na mababati lahat, thank you, Noven Suerte Avellano, everyone, Lance Bam, hi, thank you, Robel Cayuca, Jom Alukok, Luden Stana, Rhea Cristina, Janil Aguirre Simato, Pia Vier, everyone, Jane Almohera, Dayan de Guzman. Sorry kung hindi ko na kayo nabati, but thank you. Okay, so it's 9 o'clock. We will give a chance to our students from the Charlotte Mason Authentique to give their messages, final messages for this program tonight. So sige, unahin natin si Leicha. Ano ang mensahe mo sa ating mga kapwa kabataan at sa ating mga kababayan?
Well, I want our generation to not to let mental colonization get the best of us. I want us that wherever we are, let us be proud of our Filipino blood, of our Filipino physique, because that's how we were made. And you are unique. And you are special in your own way. Don't try to fit in because that's not how you were made. And yun lang po. Thank you.
Ang ganda naman nun do not try to fit in. Diba? You're special as you are. Sige. Alam nyo, kaya History Month ito, History Month, National Language Month, diba? Araw ng wikang pambansa. Kung sila kasi komportable na sa Ingles. Di hayaan natin. Pero alam natin, matututuhan nila ang Filipino. Kayong mga nagpipilipino, hindi kayo makapang-Ingles, okay lang yan. Do not try to fit in. Pilipino ka, di ba? Ikaw ay basta pinipili mong makisama sa Pilipino. At sabi niya, palayain ang mga nakabubulag sa atin ng kolonyalismo ng ating kaisipan. At ang kolonyalismo ng ating kaisipan ayun nagsasabing hindi natin kaya. Na laging mas magaling ang dayuhan. Yan ang tanggalin natin yan. No, salamat, Leicha. Zizou?
My closing remarks are that I hope the children of this generation learn to appreciate history, and not so that they can know the facts, but so that they know how our heroes felt when they were going through their toughest times, and they can use that as fuel to keep moving forward as a country. So I hope everyone can learn to appreciate and love history.
Sorry, nahuli niyo yung ubo ko, no? Pero thank you, Leicha, for saying that we should appreciate history because only when we appreciate history, we can move forward. We move forward because of its lessons. We'll move forward because we learn the lesson to make a better decision-making for the future. Diba? Ayan. Grabe, Leicha, Zizou, maraming salamat po sa inyo. Sorry. Leicha, huwag muna kayo aalis after the song. We will have a picture taking when the broadcast ends. Okay? Sige, huwag muna kayo aalis. So, magpapaalam lang ako. Thank you, Leicha and Zizou. Alam niyo, wala na akong dapat idagdag. Kundi nagpapasalamat tayo sa mga kabataang ito sa kanilang mga tanong kasi tinuturuan nila tayong magtanong. Huwag tayong matakot magtanong. Huwag din tayong matakot sumagot at huwag tayong matakot na hindi sumagot pag hindi natin alam. Diba? Kasi kapag sumagot tayo na alam, hindi natin alam, nagmamagaling tayo. It should teach us, this episode teaches us to be humble kasi hindi lahat ng magandang tanong sa ating matatanda nagmumula. Diba? So, I guess yun na yun. What a beautiful way to celebrate our 3rd anniversary, our 72nd episode. Oh, at hopefully, kung papayagan pa, mas marami pang ibang mga bata ang makasama natin. No? Some other time, we're going to do something like this again. Okay? So, before I close, no? Malu, Maduli, hello, Balikas, Paula, thank you. Mama Bilma, hello po. Harvey Parinas, sorry. Pearl of the Orient because we're tobacco rich. Hindi na natin yan. At saka na yan. Maris Foronda, Bel Consultado Palacio, yeah, Gia Marie. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Gusto ko lang i-recognize ang isang napakagaling na singer. Ang napakagaling na singer na si ito. Pasensya na kayo, no? Oo. Ang napakagaling na singer na si Jasmine Balunes. Jasmine Balunes, thank you for singing the Song of Historians. Salamat sa pag-awit mo sa awit ng mga historiador. At sana, kapag pinakikinggan namin ang awit ng mga historiador na sinulat ni Ian Alfonso at ni Ryan Cayabyab, ay lagi naming matutuhan na ang kasaysayan ay hindi basta-basta trivia, kundi meron itong misyon na ang ating bayan ay itanghal. Muli, ako po si Xiao Chua na nagsasabi, ang kasaysayan ay Kaysaya. Ito po ang himno ng Philippine Historical Association, isang bagong bersyon na inawit po ni Jasmine Balunes, ang Dalagang Marmol. Marami pong salamat at bye-bye.
Sa puso't isip laging kukupkupin mga gunitang sa ating nakarating. harap ng kahanan